Shalom, family.
Shalom.
And welcome to another new moon, new month, which Yahweh has allowed for us to observe here in Lithonia, Georgia. For those who are not familiar with the new moon, it's the beginning of a month as Yahweh has established it. Isaiah chapter 66 and 23 says, "And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Shabbat to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me," says Yahweh. So at some point, at some time, everybody will be doing this. So at this point, we're ahead of the game. Tonight's class is entitled Light Within, Times of Darkness. Light Within, Times of Darkness. Everyone has had dark periods in their lifetime, before walking in the truth, and most definitely after walking in the truth. See, we're a people scattered to the four corners of the earth, and although some of us are able to gather together from time to time in this building, while others watch from home or wherever they may be at the time, none of us are in a better position than the other, because when those times of darkness hit, we all find ourselves alone. See, we can gather together and pass the time, or we can get on the phone with a brother or a sister in the Word, but the end result is we all will depart to our separate dwelling places, and that phone call must come to an end. Now the question is, what do you have to stand on during those periods of darkness when you're all alone, just you and your thoughts? Let's begin in Genesis chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 1 through 13. Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 13.
And it came to pass after these things that Elohim did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now your son, your only son, Esaac, whom you love, and get you in the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell you of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass, and took two of his sons, took two of his young men with him, and Esaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which Elohim had told him. Then on the third day Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide you here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and laid it upon Esaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand and a knife, and they went both of them together. And Esaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. He said, Here I am. Here am I, son. And he said, Behold the fire of the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, Elohim will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together. And they came to a place which Elohim had told him of, and Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Esaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of Yahweh called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not your hand upon the lad, neither do you anything unto him. For now I know that you fear Elohim, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in the thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering in the stead of his son.
So as we're reading this, the journey seems like, it's a simple journey, but what we need to do sometimes is just reflect on the person and what they're going through. Do we not consider this to be a time period of darkness just for Abraham? Esau doesn't know what's going on. So there's no thought process, but there is a thought process where he looks and sees that, okay, if we go make an offering, where is the offering? Right? You think about it. Abraham left his wife behind. He's taking this journey. He knows what is expected of him. If we stop and we put ourselves in his shoes, I'm sure we would all feel some kind of darkness as we're going on to do this thing. It comes right down to the wire. But then we got to ask ourselves, what did Abraham hold on to keep him going? What motivates you to keep going in these times of darkness? Let's take a look at Genesis chapter 17. So we're going to go back. Genesis chapter 17, and we're going to read verses 15 through 21.
And Elohim said unto Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarai shall her name be. And I will bless her and give you a son also of her. Yeah, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto Elohim, oh, that Ishmael might live before you. And Elohim said, Sarai, your wife, shall bear you a son indeed, and you shall call his name Esaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Esau, which Sarah shall bear unto you at this set time in the next year.
So we just read about the whole journey to go sacrifice Esau. At this point in time, there's no commandments given. Abraham doesn't have any commandments. There's no feast days set, any of that stuff. But Abraham has one thing, one light of hope in his journey during these periods of darkness, these different thought processes going through his head. Verse 21, by my covenant will I establish with Esau. So if nothing else, that's my glimmer, my little bit of hope, my little bit of light within me, that he's made a promise that he's going to do something with this young man. So no matter what I'm thinking, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what I'm going through, if I hold on to this little glimmer of light, everything else will be okay. Just his word is enough for me to keep keeping on. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 12. Second Samuel chapter 12, and we're going to start at verse 15.
And Nathan departed unto his house, and Yahweh struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought Elohim for the child. And David fasted, and went in, and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose, and went to him, to raise him up from the earth. But he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, behold, while the child was yet alive, he spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself, if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servant, is the child dead? And they said, he is dead. Then David arose from the earth and washed, and anointed himself, and changed his apparel, and came into the house of Yahweh and worshiped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, what thing is this that you have done? You did fast and weep for the child while it was alive. But when the child was dead, you did raise and eat bread. And he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, who can tell whether Elohim will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me.
So, once again, like I said, if we're reflecting on this situation for any of us, that would be a period of darkness. As we can see, David separated himself. He was all fasting, weeping. Nobody else is dealing with this the way he's dealing with it. Can anybody tell him he's wrong for dealing with it the way he's dealing with it? What they said, he wouldn't be comforted. So there's nothing that anybody could do at that point in time to get David out of that period of darkness. David would have to pull strength from somewhere else to get on. Even with hearing that the child is dead, most of us would not have recovered. David straightened himself up and got it together. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 18. Let's look at some more of the plights of David. Second Samuel chapter 18, and we're going to start at verse 31.
And behold, Cushi came, and Cushi said, tidings, my master the king, for Yahweh hath avenged you this day of all them that rose up against you. And the king said unto Cushi, is the young man Absalom safe? And Cushi answered, the enemies of my master the king, and all that rise against you to do you hurt, be as that young man is. And the king was much moved, and went up to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And as he went, thus he said, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would Elohim I had died for you. O Absalom, my son, my son.
So this is the second child. This is the second one that's passed for David. Go ahead.
And it was told to Joab, behold, the king weeps and mourns for Absalom. And the victory that day was turned into mourning unto all the people. For the people heard say that day how the king was grieved for his son. And the people gat them by stealth that day into the city, as people being ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. But the king covered his face, and the king cried with a loud voice, O my son Absalom, O my son Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came into the house to the king and said, you have shamed this day the faces of all your servants, which this day have saved your life, and the lives of your sons, and your daughters, and the lives of your wives, and the lives of your concubines, and that you love your enemies, and hates your friends. For you have declared this day that you regard us neither princes nor servants. For this day I perceive that if Absalom had lived, and all we had died this day, then it had pleased you well. Now therefore arise, go forth, and speak comfortably unto your servants. For I swear by Yahweh, if you go not forth, there will not tarry one of you this night, and that will be the worse unto you than all the evil that befell you from your youth until now. The king arose and sat in the gate, and and they told unto all the people, saying, behold, the king do sit in the gate. And all the people came before the king, for Israel had fled every man to his tent.
So let's look at periods of darkness. Look at what Joab said. He said, there will not tarry one with you this night, and that will be worse unto you than all the evil that befell you from your youth until now. What has this man gone through? We're reading about the death of a second child. We can read where his own brothers kind of got smart with him. We can see that David put his life in peril for sheep, going up against a bear, going up against a lion. But what does this man stand on? What do Yahweh say about David? He's a man after my own heart. How do you get that heart? These words. If we're not in this book, if we're not focused on these words, what do you fall back on? If you're not focused on his ways, what guides you through those periods of darkness? What guides you through those times of doubt? And if you don't think David was really going through it, let's go to Psalms chapter 3. Like I said earlier, we can all gather together and pass the time. But what happens when everybody separates? What happens when you got to deal with just you? And a lot of times there's no convenient time set for you to deal with you. Go ahead.
Yahweh, how are they increased that trouble me? Many are they that rise up against me. Many there be which say of my soul, there is no help for him in Elohim. But you, O Yah, are the shield for me, my glory, and the lifter up of my head. I cried unto Yahweh with my voice, and he heard me out of his holy hill. I laid me down and slept. I wait, for Yahweh sustained me. I will not be afraid of 10,000 of people that have set themselves against me round about. Arise, O Yah, save me, O my Elohim, for you have smitten all my enemies upon the cheekbone. You have broken the teeth of the ungodly. Salvation belongs unto Yah. Your blessing is upon your people.
And if you don't have a study Bible, then you don't understand what this is about. The heading of this is a Psalm of David when he fled from Absalom, his son. And most of us who are musicians or poetry or writers understand this plight is where either your joy comes out in pen or your sadness comes out on pen and paper. This Psalms is about what he's going through with his own son, the same son we heard him crying about when he passed away. So David has been through a lot of dark periods and dark times. If you read a lot of these Psalms, those are about those dark periods and those dark times. But once again, the question is, what does David hold on to? He's a man after Yahweh's heart. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 7. Yeah. 2 Samuel chapter 7, and we're going to read verses 1 through 17.
And it came to pass, when the king sat in his house, and Yahweh had given him rest round about from all his enemies, that the king said unto Nathan the prophet, See now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of Elohim dwelt within curtains. And Nathan said to the king, Go, do all that is in your heart, for Yahweh is with you. And it came to pass that night that the word of Yahweh came unto Nathan, saying, Go and tell my servant David, thus says Yahweh, Shall you build me an house for me to dwell in? Whereas I have not dwelled in any house since the time that I brought up the children of Israel out of Egypt, even to this day. but have walked in a tent and in a tabernacle. In all the places wherein I have walked with all the children of Israel spake I a word with any of the tribes of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people Israel, saying, Why build you not me a house of cedar? Now, therefore, so shall you say unto my servant David, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, I took you from the sheepcote, from following the sheep, to be a ruler over my people, over Israel. And I was with you whithersoever you went, and have cut off all your enemies out of your sight, and have made you a great name, like unto the name of the great men that are in the earth. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and I will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused you to rest from all your enemies. Also, Yahweh tells you that he will make you an house. And when your days be fulfilled, and you shall sleep with your fathers, I will set up your seed after you, which shall proceed out of your bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build an house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he shall be my son. If he commit lawlessness, I will chasten him with the rod of men, and with the stripe of children of men. But my mercy shall not depart away from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before you. And your house and your kingdom shall be established forever before you. Your throne shall be established forever. According to all these words and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak unto David.
So Yahweh made a covenant with David. David has something that he can stand on. I mean, you got to think about it. You have a desire to do something for Yahweh. The priest tell you to go ahead and do it, and then comes back and tell you, so nah, you can't do it. How many of us would have gotten our feelings, got depressed, because this is what I desire to do? How do you push on and move on from what you want to do or what you're trying to do when it comes to the better good of Yahweh's house and Yahweh's building? They say sometimes the worst place is to get out of your own way. But David is able to accept that, knowing that this covenant is made with me for generations to come. Those are the things that we have to realize, is that covenants was made with the children of Israel. But are we in our books to understand when we get into those dark periods what to tap into to keeping on? Let's go to Exodus chapter 2. Exodus chapter 2, and we're going to start at verse 11.
And it came to pass in those days, when Moshe was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian, and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, Wherefore smited you that your fellow? And he said, Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Intended you to kill me, and you killed the Egyptian? And Moshe feared and said, Surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh, and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water, and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moshe stood up and helped them, and watered their flock. And when they came to Ruel, their father, he said, how is it that you are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughter, and where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him, that we may eat bread. And Moshe was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moshe Zipporah, his daughter. And she bare him a son, and he called his name Gershom. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land.
Now, we see that Moshe has to flee from what he's used to. And we see the name of his son is Gershom, right? Been a stranger in a strange land. If you look at that's a reflection of feelings. This is something he's growing through. This is something he's dealing with to the point that he puts it and makes it reflect in the name of his son. I have been a stranger in a strange land. That's what he named his son. So if this thing is not on him, that wouldn't have been the thought process to name the child. Numbers 12, and 1. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moshe because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married, for he had married an Ethiopian woman. There must have been periods of darkness as he wondered over the years what had become of his first wife, not to mention the family and friends he left behind. Let's not forget, he did not have a chance to say goodbye. Let's go to Job chapter 2, and we're going to read verse 1 through 9. Job chapter 2, we're going to read verses 1 through 9.
Again, there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yah, and Satan came also among them to present himself before Yah. And Yahweh said unto Satan, from whence cometh you? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahweh said unto Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that fears Elohim and eschews evil, and still he hold fast to his integrity, although you move me against him to destroy him without a cause? And Satan answered Yahweh and said, skin for skin, yeah, all that a man has will he give for his life. But put forth your hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face. And Yahweh said unto Satan, behold, he is in your hand, but save his life. So went Satan forth from the presence of Yahweh, and smote Job with sores, boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, do you still retain your integrity? Curse Elohim and die.
So imagine all that this man has gone through. Losing children, losing wealth, the loss of everything. You're down in your deepest, darkest point. And the wife of your bosom comes and says, do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse Elohim and die. How much darker does that place get? How much darker does that moment get? Sometimes when we read in the stories, we need to stop and reflect and put ourselves in these situations. But at the same token, when we're going through these dark times, these are the things that we need to be able to tap back into and find strength, to find that light within us. But if we're not in this book, if we're sitting in the room playing on our phones and not paying attention, what are you gaining? What do you have to reflect on? What do you have to fall back on? Some people are in the truth having a spouse that's not in the truth. Then there's those that have a spouse in the truth with them, but they're not on the same page, or the communication between them is so horrible that it still makes for a lonely journey during those times of darkness. Let's go to Matthew chapter 26. So was Job's wife on the same page? Was she in the truth?
Hard to tell.
Pardon me?
Hard to tell that.
That is correct. It is hard to tell. But even at that weakest point, your bosom buddy brings that to your attention. Hey man, that can sink you in a spot that there's no coming back from. Matthew chapter 26, and we're going to start at verse 36.
Then comes Yeshua with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and said unto the disciples, Sit you here while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Cephas and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then said unto them, My soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry you here and watch with me. And he went a little further and fell on his face and prayed, saying, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he comes unto the disciples and finds them asleep, and says unto Cephas, What? Could you not watch with me 1 hour? Watch and pray, that you enter not into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. He went away again the second time and prayed, saying, O my Father, if this cup may not pass away from me, except I drink it, your will be done. And he came and found them asleep again, for their eyes were heavy. And he left them and went away again and prayed the third time, saying the same words. Then comes he to his disciples and said unto them, Sleep on now and take your rest. Behold, the hour is at hand, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. Behold, he is at hand that does betray me. And while he yet spake, lo, Judas, one of the 12, came, and with him a great multitude with swords and staves, from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now they that betrayed him gave them a sign, saying, Whosoever I kissed, that same is he, hold him fast. And forthwith he came to Yeshua and said, Hail, Master, and kissed him. And Yeshua said unto him, Friend, where art you come? Then came they and laid hands on Yeshua and took him.
That's it, my brother. All right. We go back to verse 37. It says, And he took with him Cephas and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Now, let's look at this whole situation. He's got 3 other people with him, but he's still feeling sorrowful and heavy. He's still going through this, although he's got 3 companions. And that's what I was saying earlier. You can have people with you, but you're going to go through this. They can't relate to what he's going through. It's his own burden that he's got to deal with. But being the word, he got to stand on the word. The light that's within him is different. But that's a perfect example of still having people around, still being alone, still being heavy, still being sorrowful. What he says, if this cup can pass from me, got to go through it. There's no other way. But you'll shine on the other side once you get through. Let's go to Psalms chapter 119. You know, you got to think about, it says those who weren't rooted, those are the ones that get moved easily. Actually, it's Psalms 119. The only thing we're going to read is verse 105. Psalms 119 and verse 105.
Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path.
So what is the lamp onto your feet? It says your word. And a light onto my paths. And that's the question. Are we spending time with the word? So when we need that lamp, we have the lamp. When we need that light down the path, this is these things that comes back and manifests in you. In the opening prayer, the brother said for Yahweh to help us to be that beacon of light onto the nations. We're not just going to wake up one day out of our living room and just be a beacon of light to the world. There has to be something within us that we can project to the world, that the world can see and say, I see the righteousness coming from them. They're watching us. They're always watching us. As we can see going over a Bible study last night. Why would that even be on the news? And if anybody hasn't seen the video, it's only our women and our girls. So if you keep the light in darkness, then we'll never shine to the rest of the nations. All they show is our darkness. But before we can show the light, we have to get in the word, and then the light reflects from within us. The light within. They show all of our darkness. And really and truly, I asked the question again. I saw no Caucasians there. So why would you highlight that? That also can tell you what's going to happen, right? More of these places are going to pop up. Because now, it's feng shui. It's the thing to do. We have to start realizing that we are more than what they say we are. We're bad and indifferent. Why are we the ones hated by everyone? Why is it that our dirty laundry is the one that they want to air? Why? Why are you so worried about these people that you say have never contributed anything to society? But what contribution you want to show? Some pole dancing? And your mind sharp, that might not have made it to some other communities. That might have been directed to us and us alone. Go ahead, my brother.
The perception of what light is the darkness that they see. The darkness, they was told a lie first. The lie got to them to the point where when this truth is put out there, they don't recognize it. They don't recognize what light is. That's just like telling a woman in nowadays, in this day and time, that she should put something on. She feel like you need to mind your business. and because her perception of what's good is the darkness that she see, and everybody is accepting of what they see as they get the attention, the money and everything that comes with it. So then it's hard for people to then reject the darkness because they don't see it as darkness. They see all the glimmer and glamour and that they see as light.
Well, you got to look at one thing, man. First of all, how are you looking for light from some darkness? A bunch of dark people and you looking for light.
Well, you ain't got enough money. So you ain't got enough money to say that. See, if you got enough money, then see you doing something wrong. If the money to the world, if money is not involved, then you're doing something wrong. Right. They're doing all the right things because they got the money. You doing something backwards, and you need to stop because you broke.
I guess that's why they had to say that Jesus had subdivisions. You know, because he couldn't be broke. He couldn't be poor because there's no light coming from any of that. My brother, let's go to Job chapter 42. Job chapter 42, and we're going to read verses 1 through 5.
Then Job answered Yahweh and said, I know that you can do everything, and that you thought, and that no thought can be withholden from you. Who is he that hides counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I uttered that I understood not, things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Hear, I beseech you, and I will speak. I will demand of you, and declare you unto me. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you.
I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. And this is where we all sit, in this same seat. We can read these stories, but let's reflect on what we've gone through and how we've been brought through those times of darkness. We should be able to say the same thing. I have heard of you, but now I know you. And that is also a part of a lot of our people's problem. I've heard of you by the hearing of the ear. A lot of us can regurgitate what we've heard. Never read it for ourselves. Never studied it for ourselves. So all we go off is hearsay. And we'll fight you to death on hearsay. Because we know pastor get up there and say one verse and everything else is what he wants you to hear. And 9 times out of 10, what you walked out of there is with an opinion. That whole sermon was based off of an opinion and what he wanted to feed your spirit. Let this book feed your spirit. Let these words feed your spirit. You know, Brother Absalom has this thing he's always talking about. Those who come for the natural food that perish and not for that spiritual food. Now, this is how we start dealing with the spiritual food. Sunday morning is still natural because it's all about feeling good. That feel-good ceremony and you go home. But was your spirit fed? Was something said to resonate within you to make a change, to look at yourself? So that over time somebody else can say, man, I see you made some changes. I see you not the way you used to be. But if all it is feel good, hey, feel good goes away. What do you tap into when feel good's gone? What sustenance do you have when feel good is gone? You wait till next Sunday to go pay some more money to hear some more feel good? Or do you get in this book and let these words build up within you and build you up into that beacon of light, that righteous servant that we're all supposed to be? Let's go to Yohanan chapter 14. That's John chapter 14. And we're going to start at verse 15.
If you love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it sees him not, neither knows him, but you know him, for he dwells with you and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. Yet a little while, and the world sees me no more. But you see me, because I live. You shall live also. At that day you shall know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He that has my commandments and keep them, he it is that loves me. And he that loves me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him, and will manifest myself to him. Yehuda said unto him, not Iscariot, Adonai, how is it that you will manifest yourself unto us, and not unto the world? Yeshua answered and said unto him, if a man love me, he will keep my words, and my Father will love him, and we will come unto him, and make our abode with him. He that loves me not, keeps not my sayings, and the word which you hear is not mine, but the Father which sent me. These things have I spoken unto you, being yet present with you. But the Comforter, which is the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I say unto you.
So, if you're not in this book, you don't understand promises. Yeshua said, I'll pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter. Mm-hmm. That's a promise. That's a promise. That if you're walking right in those times of darkness, you should be able to pull that and say, you know what? That's your promise that we'd have another comforter. Yeah, I'm going through this, but let me light that little spark and get this little bit of light going on. But then he says, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it sees him not, neither knows him, but you know him, for he dwells with you and shall be in you. The Spirit of truth has to be in you in order to be able to accept the covenant that he's going to give you another comforter. If you're not in this book, if you're not in these things, what does he have to pull from to bring it back to your remembrance? If you're not in your book spending time with the Word or paying attention during class, what is there to bring to your remembrance during those times of darkness? Remember, Moshe spent so much time with the Word that he began to glow. Matthew chapter 5 and 16 says, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. You will have to tap into your own light during these times of darkness just to stay grounded. It's during these periods that things such as these should come back to your remembrance. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 13. There has no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But Elohim is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that you are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that you may be able to bear it. This has been misquoted as saying Elohim will not give you more than you can bear. I won't give you more than you can bear. Find it in Scripture. Find that statement in Scripture. You will not. It is 1 Corinthians 10 and 13 that we just read. But if you haven't read it, how can you tap back into it? How can it come back to your remembrance during your times of trouble? During your times of doubt? If you haven't heard it, how can it be brought to your remembrance? So it's imperative that we study so that we have some light that we can fall back on. There has to be a spark somewhere. At least you get in those periods of darkness and just stay there. Let's read Psalms chapter 23. Here's another one that we love to tap into. Psalms chapter 23.
Yahweh is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepared a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You've anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh forever.
Do we understand this? Have we heard it? How many times do you believe it? Can you tap into it? These are scriptures that we've always heard. These are things during those periods in time that should come back to your remembrance, that should be brought back to your remembrance, that you should sit and dwell on. But if you haven't heard it, if you haven't gone through it, if you haven't read it, it's not there. Besides the kids in the back, I don't think there's anyone in this building that has not gone through periods of darkness. Reflect and see what comes back to your memory during these times. Reflect and see what has really gotten you through those tough times. What did you stand on? Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Second Corinthians chapter 4, and we're going to start at verse 7.
But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of Elohim and not of us. We are troubled on every side, yet not distressed. We are perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not forsaken. Cast down, but not destroyed. Always bearing about in the body the dying of the Adonai Yeshua, that the life also of Yeshua might be made manifest in our body. For we which live are always delivered unto death for Yeshua's sake, that the life also of Yeshua might be made manifest in our mortal flesh. So then death worked in us, but life in you. We have the same spirit of faith, according as it is written, I believe, and therefore I have spoken. We also believe, and therefore speak. Knowing that he which raised up the Adonai Yeshua shall raise up us also by Yeshua, and shall present us with you. For all things are for your sakes, that the abundant grace might, through the thanksgiving of many, redound to the glory of Elohim. For which cause we faint not, but through our outward man perish, yet inward man is renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, work for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal.
Let us not be as the foolish virgins, and not store up oil in preparation for those periods of darkness. It states that the bridegroom waited until midnight, which would naturally be the darkest time of night. But do we have oil stored up for the spiritual midnight, which will vary from individual to individual? If this word is not in us, all we have is the ways of the old man to fall back upon. And for some of us, that's going to lead back to drinking, drugs. The only thing that we can set within us to not have to fall back on the old man is this word. So how much word are you taking in to be able to overshadow the ways of the old man? At the end of the day, it's not flesh and blood that we wrestle with. So are we building up that spiritual storehouse? Do we have enough word within us to spark that light in the time of darkness? We all will go through it. We all have gone through it. And if you think you're on the other side, please remember, it said Satan left him for a season. So when you get that break, you need to be re-up on your oil. So when he comes again, you have better footing, better ground. That's all we're going to do for this evening. Enjoy your new moon feast. Shalom.
Shalom.